It's tough out there. When you start talking about gangs, drugs, alcohol, bullying, and what our kids have to navigate, decisions that they have to make daily, many are adult decisions. We need to provide them the tools, the skills, knowledge, and ability to be able to make those decisions that are in their best interest. I think we as an adults and people in positions need to take that opportunity to hear their voices, because in a lot of cases what they're saying makes a lot of sense. When you're able to read the words and hear the voices, we gather a better understanding of some of the challenges of our young people.
We have committed to stopping the cycle of violence in our lives, both by our personal choices and by sharing our stories and experiences with others.
Do the Right Thing gives us that opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Do the Right Thing National Ambassadors.
The Do the Right Thing challenge works because it creates a new network of positive communications.
Choosing nonviolent methods to help yourself is powerful.
Thank you for being an amazing role model. You guys can help lead us to the country where we need to go.
And to all of our 15th annual National Ambassadors, congratulations.
Stand up, don't stand by.
The difference, be the difference.
And I wish that when I was a young girl growing up in South Central Los Angeles, that I had a place like this that I could call home.
Le mandé un mensaje y no ha contestado. ¿Será que no quiere seguir a mi lado? Sigue con el cuento de que me he olvidado, que lo de nosotros quedó en el pasado, que ya tienes otro, que es un empresario. Cambiaste mis besos por carros del año.
So I'm going to read your events, and if you have gone through this, then you're going to cross this line. If you stay on this side, I want you to show your people, your friends, your family, that you love them, okay? And all you hold up is the love sign. I have experienced abuse in my home. I have been invited to join a gang. I have seen a person die right in front of me.
Our middle school is in San Elizario. We're right by the border. Many of our students have been impacted by the violence that occurred in Juarez. We have a high population of economically disadvantaged families in the community. By the time they get to middle school, 1 out of 4 students, according to our numbers, has either experienced, witnessed, or been a part of some kind of act of violence. And that is where Do the Right Thing is very powerful for our students.
With Do the Right Thing, it gives you guys a voice, okay? It's gonna give you guys the chance to actually think about it. Can you solve and stop violence at school, at home, in your life? Now that you've gone through some stuff and you realized to have love and empathy for others, how can you stop violence?
Well, we can make like a club, like what we did like right now, and then like we can discuss about it like in a circle, and or like we can say our problems, and maybe the other people were going through the same thing, and well, they'll feel comfortable.
Show compassion or have compassion towards one another. Get to know a person like by showing love and staying humble. Like, don't just think about yourself, but think of others.
Do the Right Thing should definitely be implemented in every middle school. Do the Right Thing allows us to get to know our students more, because it allows them to write, and then when we have to read it, it's like, whoa, this kid was actually going through this all this time and I didn't know.
My essay was about when my mom was going through domestic violence at my household, and my dad took it really far. She was bleeding on the floor. My dad, he was a bully growing up. I never wanted to be like my dad, because back then I was a bully, but after I wrote this essay, I started changing. I stopped bullying. I actually started helping the people that got bullied.
Do the Right Thing help students grow. They just really have this opportunity to see something that they may never get to see again. By the time they come back from Washington, that introverted, shy child that we once had will now be a very well-versed, very well, almost sophisticated young woman or man that I don't think we see that in any other program.
I was affected by violence all my life. Everything that I see and hear is violence. I have it in my neighborhood and at school. I know I can ask for help, but sometimes that help really doesn't help at all.
At the beginning of the year, Danka was really, really quiet. Now through this program, I see her and she has found her voice.
There's always has to be a popular kid or girl. And some are very cool, but maybe we could talk to one of them and make them be a better role model, to be kind, to show that you are special and original.
And I'm so glad that, you know, you were able to participate and do the right thing, and now you get to share this wonderful experience with so many different people.
I'm gonna write in my diary to keep in memory, because I don't want to forget.
Hey Danka, look what I found. And I thought it was perfect for you. I'm gonna read it.
The only weapon I need.
It's crazy, right? I found it and I was like, that's so Danka. So use it to write in your journal.
Yeah, all right, I will.
It will be amazing be there in Washington.
I wish it was only one place.
Knowing a lot of people, a lot of students. This will be amazing.
The genius of Do the Right Thing is they focus on the most vulnerable, and that's the 7th and 8th graders, because they're going through this metamorphosis, if you will, and not only are they growing and hormones are kicking in, but the brain is being rewired. And the last thing that's being rewired is self-control. So you've created this program. Now they're involved in something in which they have personal knowledge. And I know what works and what doesn't work, and Do the Right Thing works.
The violence, it's increasing dramatically because every single day, there's someone that's passing away, and frequently it's young people that are caught in crosswalks. They didn't even participate in the gang. They're just going and innocent about their way. The reality is it's an all-out war on some of the streets, and it's terrible to have to live in that environment and somehow go to school, somehow learn and become a citizen.
I don't think it's fair at all that I'm 13 and I have to go through this, and I have to live in this environment and experience all these things at such a young age.
There are essays that have stuck with me every year, some that literally move me to tears. There was one essay that I remember, Rashad Johnson, and he basically said, statistics will say I can't walk across this stage or I won't walk across this stage, but he was committed to doing so.
They say words don't hurt us, but they hurt the kids that go home thinking there's no love in this world for them. They think they are worthless, committing suicides, cutting themselves, hoping and wishing that they were dead or even that others died.
Sometimes they're moving me to tears because I can't believe that I'm reading an essay of a student who really is stuck in this position. And you know, sometimes they'll end with there's nothing they can do, and that's really heartbreaking. But then there are many students who see the challenge and they're willing to go out there and make a difference, whether it's a difference in their own life or whether it's helping friends, but they know they can bring about change and they're committed to stopping violence.
Living in Chicago, like you said, we see the news every day and we know that kids are going through this on a daily basis. Why did you find it important to write from the bully or the attacker point of view?
Because people always attack the attacker instead of trying to comfort them or ask them why did they do it, because there's always reasons for everything we do in life.
Marcus Banks, he's phenomenal. I mean, to see him, this little boy in a white pinstripe suit in 2009, and the man he is today, a college student at Boston University, confident, and is going to go very far.
Do the Right Thing changed the trajectory of my life because
I was able to know that I wasn't the only one that cared about this issue. I was able to gain confidence. Through my words, people were truly impacted. And since then, every time that I write something, every time that I say something, I know that my voice is being heard by someone.
What I remember from the Do the Right Thing program was, my goodness, my voice as a young person is gonna matter, and people are gonna listen, and there are gonna be more people who get to hear my story.
I devoted my time in writing because I know that this was an opportunity that cannot be ignored.
I grew up in Albany Park in Chicago, and there was a lot of violence, a lot of gang activity. When I was in middle school, I was coming home with my mom, and I witnessed a really horrific violence in our neighborhood. And after that, we just walked home, and it was like nothing happened. We didn't talk about it, she didn't ask me questions, I didn't ask questions, and it was just a part of my life. That's how it grew up, and that's what Albany Park was to me. Being selected as a winner in Chicago and then in the national stage was really exciting because I never thought I would have the opportunity to be a part of something bigger outside of my neighborhood. During the National Recognition Week, it was really amazing to see lots of different students from different parts of the United States. I was able to reflect on my neighborhood and then just sort of saw a very different vision of what Chicago could be. I am where I am today because of empowering opportunities like Do the Right Thing. Currently, I work at One Goal, which is an education organization that helps low-income students go to college and graduate.
This trip is not the end of my journey. It is only the beginning of a hopeful promise to the future.
I got a chance to go back to the Do the Right Thing initiative in Chicago a couple of years out of the program. And I remember writing a speech for their award ceremony, and the line was, "Your words are your ammunition." So my message for young people is, your words are powerful. It starts with you, and it starts with each other, it starts in our community. And Chicago can look very different, right? Like the world can look very different.
Whether cities be large or small, you know, they all have their own unique issues and their problems. And one is, of course, our young people, the middle schoolers, in my opinion, are the most vulnerable. You know, if you can get to the middle schoolers, then you create a good environment for these young people. We've had over 5,000 students come through this program with them to Do the Right Thing. There's about 5,000 kids that we don't have to worry about in our city. Councilman Brooks really birthed the program in our city and has been very passionate about it.
Mayor, as you know, we have a big weekend planned for our young people. This year we had over 300 to write essays, and as you know as well, the Jackson Generals are a huge supporter, so every child who's written an essay is invited to come out. They get 2 free tickets for them and their parents.
Jackson City Councilman Ernest Brooks, and he's also the chairman of the Do the Right Thing Challenge, and he's here tonight to throw out another first picture.
Being part of something bigger than myself is what makes this program very special. Programs like Do the Right Thing that actually make a difference are very, very important to me. I have actual hands-on experiences with my students and the administrators and the teachers who I consider are the backbone of the program. We couldn't do it without the teachers.
Right now in Jackson, we are experiencing a lot of problems with gangs and drugs, because when they're selling the drugs, they're trying to get the younger children to sell the drugs for them, because if they get caught, they're not going to serve any hard time. And as far as the Do the Right Thing program itself, I think it's a marvelous program because it is trying to teach students the right way to do, to live, to conduct themselves. It's also cathartic for children because if they've gone through things in their life, violence, or if it's touched some member of their family, then they're able to put that to paper. They're able to share that in a way that they may not have been able to talk about it or share it in the past. One of the young ladies here 2 years ago wrote about the situation that happened at Union when a young lady was killed on Union's campus. And she knew some people that knew this young lady, and she talked about how it made her feel personally, how it made her feel unsafe in her own community when she'd never felt that way before. And when you wrote about the young woman at Union who was murdered, why did you feel that you needed to make that a part of it, and what connection did you have to that incident?
A lot of people from my church knew her, and they came into church that Sunday just crying. And usually church is just like a happy place, you know? And they came in, and I just saw how impacted they were by just this pointless violence. As I began writing it, I realized statistics on kids being bullied and how that affects them later on in life, and just I saw how many people were being affected by violence, and it just really opened my eyes writing this essay, seeing just how bad of a problem it is. When I wrote my essay, and then when I went to DC and I heard other people's stories of people who had been bullied and had taken part in youth violence, it made me just, you know, want to do something about that. So I think that really carried over into this program that we started in my high school.
I watched from my window as a young man in a blue bandana was surrounded by a troop of men in red bandanas. I caught parts of the confrontation. Betrayal, no loyalty, you're going down tonight. A couple of hours later, I heard a loud pow, pow, pow. I cringed. One of my cousins, Hamid, was actually a victim of gun violence, and it was very unexpected, very tragic for the entire family. My experience with Do the Right Thing, writing the essay, and especially the trip to Washington, D.C., was definitely a catalyst for my passion for community service, paying it forward, youth mentoring. As a youth, I never felt as though my voice was being heard and that my solutions could ever have an impact. I felt so empowered that I organized a community leadership workshop here in Jackson for freshmen in the area to learn some of those same values of paying it forward, service, and leadership.
We have good people here, people that care about their community, that care about the kids here, and that want to see wonderful things happen for Jackson.
This program changes lives. The Do the Right program changes lives, and we have the results here. And more results to come as the program continues to go on. That's fantastic.
My name is Zeman Morogi, and I was a national ambassador in 1996 for the Do the Right Thing program. I left Iraq when I was 7 years old. The process of leaving a country during war, it's extremely dangerous, but my parents wanted to raise us in America, and so I moved to Detroit when I was 8. It was not easy, I'll be honest with you. For my personal entry into the Do the Right Thing program, I wrote a poem. And I remember it. Although violence is everywhere I go and connected with some of the people that I know, I don't want violence to be connected with me because I want my life to be safe and free. So that was a portion of my entry. After I returned from DC, I had a special outlook on life. I realized that, as cliche as it may sound, that I can make a difference with my own behavior, with my own choices. I love the fact that I am at a school that's very similar to the one I went to as a student. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This morning, I want us to have a discussion regarding a topic, and that's the topic of youth violence. What does violence look like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? What do you see when you hear the word violence? What do you see? As a classroom teacher, I really believed in the Do the Right Thing program. I knew the impact that it had made on me. So I really wanted to make sure to provide that same opportunity to our own students at Detroit Enterprise.
My name is Gary McKay. I go to Detroit Enterprise Academy. I was last year's winner of the Do the Right Thing competition. When I found out that I was actually going to Washington, D.C., I thought like, oh, this is amazing because I didn't grow up in like the best neighborhood where just everybody rich kids, and I wasn't like that type of kid.
To see, my own student in DC experiencing the same things that I had experienced when I was in 8th grade was a beautiful, beautiful opportunity.
Do the right thing helps you become a better person. And when you see how much good you have done, then it's going to inspire you to inspire other people.
It takes a lot of courage for a child to write about some things that are going on in their lives, particularly when it deals with violence in their schools, with them personally, in their homes, in the community. And we want to thank them for that. We want to celebrate with them. We want to encourage them to go on and do bigger and better things as well.
It is time to recognize our Boston ambassadors. The winners are Andres Diaz of the James B. Templeton School. Come on out. Look at you, girl. Go on with your bad self. Congratulations. We know that you're going to represent us well at the National Recognition Ceremony in Washington, D.C., and in and around the city of Boston and the Commonwealth.
Today, something incredible happened, something that I will always remember, because not everybody gets this chance, and basically, I get to stand out. I chose to focus my essay on a 4-year-old boy that I saw who got shot, and sometimes I kind of feel guilty that he died because I was watching him and I couldn't say anything about it to warn him. It feels good when you express yourself through writing, because sometimes you don't have the words to say it, but maybe to write it you might find the right words.
Drugs and violence, unfortunately, are commonplace in the world today. On April 2nd, 2005, my father died due to drugs. I heard stories about my mom having to go into the crack house just to find my dad at the late hours of the night, having breathtaking moments every time the phone rang and he wasn't at home, and saying a short prayer to herself, hoping that it was the police calling and saying that he was dead. It was a very emotional experience talking about what happened to my father. I wanted the students in the crowd to actually know my past and hopefully help other people out that were in the crowd that are going through tough times.
Do the Right Thing works. It is one of those programs that catches kids early, helps turn their life around and change their attitudes towards violence. By the time the kid hits our juvenile probation system, where we have to build new juvenile probation facilities and a boot camp and set up new programs, we've already failed. And so Do the Right Thing has a huge impact in the community, but it's one that's difficult to quantify because it's kids who don't get in trouble.
There was definitely violence in my neighborhood. Some nights it would be gunshots, robberies and killings and things like that all the time. That was my reality. When I was able to go to DC, it represented the first time that I was able to get on a plane, the first time that I traveled outside of the state, the first time that I was able to meet government and city officials, and they were there for me. Having Do the Right Thing come about so early in my life, this was almost 20 years ago, it really did help mold and shape me as far as my thought process and what can I really do, what can I do in my life to help others, to inspire others, to unlock their own potential, to make safe choices. I think Do the Right Thing is absolutely necessary for the next 20 years and beyond.
Do the Right Thing offers students the opportunity to express what's happening with them. We find that more and more that student voice is critical. It's extremely critical in a young adult feeling like they have a place in the world. The whole program is designed for us to listen to what's going on in their lives, and that they can connect with other kids. They can see that other kids are going through the same thing, that they're not alone. And Do the Right Thing does that.
Instead of us telling children what the causes of youth violence are, we're asking them. Instead of us telling them what the solution should be, we're asking them. It's actually bringing the community into this whole thing and realizing and understanding the breadth of youth violence and the effect that it has on these children, so that we as a community can begin to make some solutions and can begin to put some resources into these children's lives.
For over 20 years, the National Campaign to Stop Violence has been facilitating its Do the Right Thing challenge in communities across America. The program is the initiative of the Kuwait America Foundation, a non-governmental organization which works to strengthen ties among the people of Kuwait and the United States. The National Do the Right Thing Challenge began in 1996 and gives middle school students an opportunity to examine the impact of violence on their lives in classroom discussions and in written form. Annually, an estimated 150,000 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students participate in National Campaign to Stop Violence sponsored classroom discussions about youth violence. 70,000 of these students choose to accept the challenge by preparing writings on the causes of and solutions for youth violence and by pledging not to engage in violent acts. Over 2,000 school ambassadors are honored at local recognition ceremonies and have their writings published and distributed locally. 2 national ambassadors from each participating jurisdiction are honored at a national recognition ceremony in Washington, D.C. in July. Since its inception, it is estimated that over 1,900,000 students have participated in the challenge. Over 900,000 of these students have accepted the challenge by making a written personal commitment not to engage in violence and by preparing writings on the causes of and solutions for youth violence. In some cities, the program is expanded to involve associate internship and scholarship programs. The inspiration for this program that has impacted the lives of so many American middle school students originated thousands of miles from the United States and in the mind of one man who had dedicated his life to improving the psychological well-being of children around the world, Dr. Hassan El Ibrahim, the Minister of Education in Kuwait and a professor at Kuwait University.
It's amazing how war can affect children. But we never thought that the problem of war and children will be faced. We will be facing it in Kuwait because it's such a peaceful country. And in August 2nd, 1990, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait with almost 100,000 soldiers. And I was really worried about the state of our Kuwaiti children. So at that time, I started contacting trauma center in the States. And there is another one, the largest in the States, in Chicago. And my question to the person I talk with in Chicago is that, how come your children are traumatized? I mean, America never been invaded. And he said, our children traumatized by local violence, by aggression in schools, by aggression in the neighborhoods. And this is how I got the idea of establishing Kuwait America Foundation. It was established 3 months after the liberation of Kuwait in 18th of May 1991, and we selected children as the major topic of the activities of this foundation. We think that this foundation aim is to say thank you first to the American for liberating Kuwait, the American and the international coalition, and second, thank from Kuwaiti children to the American children.
Dr. Hassan found partners in the United States to help him launch this initiative. One was attorney Dan Callister, who himself had begun contemplating the impact of violence on America's young people. With Dan's help, Dr. Hassan launched Do the Right Thing, an essay contest that asked middle school children across America to consider the impact of violence on their lives by answering 3 questions.
How has violence affected me personally? Why would a young person in America become violent? And what can I personally do to reduce youth violence?
The top essays are then selected by local judges, and the authors of those essays are invited to Washington, D.C. for a National Recognition Week, where they meet with our country's political and social leaders and are invited to read their essays at the Library of Congress.
While I was writing, I felt it's being heard and it's important, and very respected people actually get to understand a little part of me and my world.
Kuwait America Foundation was able in this past 20 years to invite American children to talk about how much violence affected their life and listen to them and how to face this aggression and how to reduce the violence throughout the school.